Hi there, my name's Vince from My Mate Vince, and this is going to be a revisit video on the PlayStation 5 sent in by Gavin. So this has the 2-second blue light of death, but when I got it, it was completely dead. I had to change out that MOSFET there, I had to do some work up here, replace this inductor here, and then it's no longer dead, but I've still got the 2-second blue light of death, which was the original problem. Now, it looks like the HDMI port has been replaced. So damage may have happened up here when the original port was damaged. This port is not going to be working, the pins are not connected, but that won't stop it from turning on. I changed out the HDMI encoder in the last video, and it's still not working. But I've just read a message on gbatemp.net, and it's from Rambo NZ, and basically somebody's explaining about the problem that they haven't, in this area up here, got the 3.3 volt and 1.8 volt. Now this board here has loads of different voltages, so I've got 12 volt, 5 volt, 3.3, but I noticed in the last video on here, up this way here, I didn't have the 1.8 volts up this area here, the back of the encoder. And I tried manually putting 1.8 volts in, but nothing came up. Anyway, it's said in this one here, long story short, a 3.3 volt line to the right of the HDMI encoder is on an enable line. This comes from the south bridge. And then I think it's when you do that, it then produces 1.8 volts. So I thought, well, let's put 12 volts in here. So if I go on to negative here, this is from my bench power supply. And if I go on to positive here, you will now see, sparks, that if we get our voltage and go up here, on this pin here, on this little chip, we should have 3.3 volts, and we haven't. So for example, if I was to go on to, you can see I've got voltage up, let's go into that one there, you see I'll have 12 volts here. Yep, so we've got voltage in the board, but on this one here, we haven't got 3.3 volts, and because of that we haven't got 1.8 volts here. But now watch, let me just take this off, and I'm going to lower it down to 3.3 volts. So we're going to pretend now that the south bridge is producing 3.3 volts to here, and look, we then have 1.8 volts out of this voltage regulator. So let me get my little thing here, and we're going to put 3.3 volts on that pad there, which goes to that chip. Now look, if I go on to this top one here, you will see we will have 1.8 volts. Yeah, hopefully you can see that on my meter there, leads in the way. So I think that's proved, because I thought it was a south bridge problem last time anyway. I think that's proved that it's a south bridge problem. There you go. I'm going to take the south bridge off and see what's underneath it. Imagine if we've seen a big lump of liquid metal, because this board is covered in liquid metal, so you never know. Get some hot air on it. I'm going to take off this and see what's happening. First of all, I'm just going to try and reflow it, just in case it was dropped or something like that, because the liquid metal is everywhere. But I think the chip itself has shorted rather than it's dropped, but you never know. So this board's amazingly good at conducting away all the heat, so I've got my hot air station set to 500 degrees Celsius. I've taken the nozzle off it, and we've got it to max airflow, 200 out of 200. Let's see if we can reflow this south bridge. Interestingly, I can see a ball. I can see a ball here, but yet it hasn't reflowed. I wonder, could that be liquid metal, or is that a solder ball? That's a solder ball. What's going on there? I haven't got it hot enough to reflow. To me, it doesn't look right. Just here, those two balls look like they're touching. And where did that mystery ball come from? So I wonder now, should I add some? Let me add a little bit more flux in there. I'm going to try to direct the heat just in here, but really it needs to go the other side to try to blow that out. I wonder, is that liquid metal? I'm going to let it cool down and see if it makes any difference, because we definitely had a ball come out of there. Right, it's still probably a little warm. Let's see if it's still doing the 2-second blue light of death. There it goes. That's interesting. Look at that, it's not coming on at all now. And we've got our 12 volts there. I bet we still got all the voltages everywhere. I suppose that maybe confirms for me, I think that confirms for me that it is something to do with the south bridge. Thing is, I didn't even get it hot enough to reflow, but a ball's appeared from somewhere. Right, let's take the south bridge off. Well, annoyingly, I don't think I can see any liquid metal in there. Let's give it a clean up. So I'm going to get some solder wick and just try to make it nice and smooth. And I'm going to use some isopropyl alcohol and give it a nice good clean up. Right, that's come up nice and clean there. Let's see if we have continuity between this point here and the south bridge. So it was this one. So I'm going across a little voltage regulator that I tested earlier, which is supposed to be making the 1.8 volts, but it's not getting the 3.3 volts from the south bridge in order to make it work. So I just want to see if we go onto the chip where the 3.3 volts is, will it come up underneath the south bridge? Hold on. Now that is worrying. Oh. Yes. I thought it wasn't going to come up, but it is. Excellent. Let me zoom in on that. See, it's really useful. If you had loads of these, it would be useful to take, I've done it on like the Nintendo Switch, if you take off all the components, then you see you can scan, so you can kind of, not scan, so you can, you know, probe around like this, and you can find out where something comes up. I haven't made one yet, but a lot of people say if you were to get some kind of wire like this, you know, like if you get like braided wire, then you could just rub it over, and then you could cover a load of points at once. And then when you cover those points, you know it's in that particular area, then you can go over to your probes, because I almost thought then that it wasn't going to come up. So it's that one there. Interesting. Right, okay. So that's responsible for the 3.3 volts. So where does that go, roughly? Yeah, so it's going down this area. Yeah, it's going to these vias here, isn't it? And this is those ones. Well, either way, it's ended up in vias. Yeah, I'm not going to trace it all over the place. Right, I wonder, should I try to take the south bridge off this board and see what happens, or I might go over to another board that had actual damage in the layers here, because I think this board might have had a similar problem with the south bridge. So yeah, might try the other board. Right, so this is the board where the MOSFET blew up and the charring went deep down into the board, and I think it put a short into here. So it's the same model, EDM010, and apparently these are not married. So let's take this south bridge off. You never know, it might still be working. That came off very nice. Right, I just want to see if it's still coming up on this board here in the same spot, just to make sure. Yes, it is. Now, I want to double check, because now, knowing that comes up there was no need to take off the encoder chip. I just want to make sure that that 3.3 is not coming up here, because if the 3.3 is generating the 1.8 and it's not, and that pin goes to here, then there was a good chance that the encoder chip was okay. But why did the south bridge fail? Unless, of course, the encoder chip was faulty, but then maybe when it became a no power issue with all liquid metal everywhere, it shorted something here when the MOSFET here failed. Who knows? All seems a bit, it all just seems weird how, like, you know, HDMI port had gone and then there were so many other things gone as well. Right, so I need to clean this up. I need to try and reball that, which I know is not going to be fun. It's amazing that it starts off so hard but then becomes easy as you start to get solder on it, because I suppose the solder is just grabbing the other bits of solder and putting it into the wick. Now, although it doesn't look like there's much balls here, I bet you there's still a couple of hundred. Wish there was an easy way to reball. I know some people use stencils, don't they? And they seem to manage it really well. Like anything, it's a skill. It's a skill I haven't got. Right, I've got my little Chinese reballing station that I bought years ago. Don't quite know how to use it, but I think it's self-explanatory. You just push this in along the chip. Annoyingly, this chip, this must be made for bigger chips, because this is in there kind of, but it's still a little bit of play. This is at its extreme travel, so it can't go any smaller than this. Now, I've only used it once before. That was on a PlayStation 2. Everything's far from ideal. I think I'm probably going to have to just put a tiny little ball on, and another one, and another one, and another one, and then heat them up. But having a quick look online, people do seem to have success using stencils. Look at that. That looks nice, doesn't it? So I have got some solder paste. The problem is the solder paste was bought a few years ago now. Apparently they only last a short amount of time. You're supposed to keep it in the fridge, I've been told. But I'm thinking it's solder. It's metal. I'm wondering whether or not it will work. So I'm going to try to use solder paste to begin with. And if that doesn't work, I'm going to try to reball it by hand. The problem with that is that there is going to be 200 and something balls here. I counted 50 balls along 3 lines, and then my eyes went a bit crossed. Right, thinking about it, I suppose I better add a tiny little bit of flux. It's only a tiny amount. I think that looks about right. Not quite sure everything's so oh. See, that's annoying. So it hasn't gripped the it hasn't gripped the chip, has it? I wonder, could I use a big lump of blue tack and just force it down on the mat? Would that give it more even pressure, I wonder? Or not, maybe not. I don't think I'm going to try to heat through this, because when I did that before, can you see it went all, I don't think it's a direct heat one. It went all bubbly like this. Look, let's just try. It's not going to take long to put some solder paste on, and then we'll lift it off and see what we're left with. I think I know what's going to happen though. The chip's just going to come off with it. Right, here's my solder paste. That was bought years and years ago. It's fair play. It does actually say storage condition refrigerator, but I'm not going to be storing it in the refrigerator because I can't imagine that will go down too well. Let's see, is anything going to come out of this? Oh no, balls, I went right the way through it. That's annoying. I was saying that, it must be soft enough on the inside then. Right, let's use something bigger. If I get one use out of this now, I'll be happy. Wow, yeah, okay. Well, it wants to come out the back, it doesn't want to come out the front, but I suppose it doesn't really matter where I get it from. So, let's see if how far that's going to go. I probably need a bit more than that actually. Seems very soft at the back actually. Right, let's get scraping. I might get some cling film over the back of that. I may get another use. So maybe it just kind of goes off here and not in the middle, because I suppose air can't get to that. Well, I think that's covered. So now I just want to wipe off if there's any excess. Now, shall we see what happens when we pull this off? Of course the chip's going to come with it. Now, how am I going to take this chip off without... How am I going to take this chip off now without moving all those balls everywhere? So I need to somehow grab it without wiggling, and the chance of me doing that are very, very slim. Wow, what a mess. So you can see, so you can see that it didn't even, this is what happened when I tried to do it before. The paste just goes underneath here and spreads everywhere. That was just a waste of time. I don't think I'm actually going to be able to do this, because you see this has a bit of, not much, but it's got a bit of flex, yeah? Very little flex, but there's enough flex that when you're doing this, it's forcing underneath. You're just pushing it along, you know what I mean? Unless I try to do it with balls and just heat up. Yeah, let's try to do that. At least if I did it with balls, you see, it's got no chance of going underneath because the balls are going to be too big to go under here. Right, I'm going to get some 0.4mm balls and I'm going to pop them in and see what they do. I've got a feeling it's just all going to stick when I lift the thing up, but if I get some balls on there, maybe I can do the rest by hand. 0.4, here we go. Right, this is where probably 30,000 come out. So let's just put a few. And actually, I've got to get it in the middle. The rest are going to fall. The rest are going to fall. So I am going to lose loads. Whoa, whoa, whoa! This actually might be quite satisfying. So let's see now. I should be doing this under a microscope. Ah, I knocked it. I wonder, has balls got trapped underneath it now that I can't see? I can't get it in the very corner. Yes. Now thinking about it, do you know what's going to happen here? If I take the stencil off, the balls that haven't got a pad are not going to go anywhere and they're going to scoot across. They're not going to stick to the solder because there is no solder, there's no pad there. They're going to scoot across and then hit the ball next to them. So I think I have to try to heat this up with them in place, but what will happen there is this will buckle up and then the solder will probably stick to the holes here rather than on the actual chip. I suppose the bottom line is you need a proper stencil. I think I'm probably wasting my time. Amazingly, there's a ball in every single hole and I don't think there was a huge amount of wastage. Oh, I wish I could lift it off. Wish I could lift it off, but I can't. How am I going to do this? Well, I'll try direct heat, but I think it's just going to buckle up. I'll do it really low. I'll do 500 degrees Celsius. I know that's more than the chip can handle, but this is going to drain away a lot of the heat. And I'll do it at a very low airflow. I'll do it at 40 out of a possible 200. Let's just see what happens. You're not really going to be able to see much of it. See, look, can you see it's already buckled? It's already buckled up. It's buckled. Okay, well, we'll continue on. I can't even see anything now. Can you see that? It's amazing how quickly it buckles when they're quite thick. I wonder, should I take it off now? Because look, it's already off, isn't it? Or not? I don't know what to do. I can already see it. I think balls have moved from there. Let's keep going now. Might as well. I'm going to take it off while it's warm. Ooh. Ooh, it's not awful. I might be able to just use a bit of solder wick on those corner bits there. Well, okay. Let's go with it. Nah, you see they're all moving now. Yeah, it's the ones that the balls are moving where they shouldn't be, you know? You know, if I had a proper stencil, I think this would have worked. Because you can see, it's only the balls that have moved where the hole should be. Now, I can't see if any of them have actually reflowed. No, they haven't. Right, I'm going to try to pick off the ones that have moved. I'm going to get my head right in the way for this. Yeah, I'll tell you what. Let me zoom in. Look, they're most of them have stuck. I think they've all stuck, apart from the ones where there is no pads. So watch this. You see here? I can knock that off. That one's gone. Probably have to redo those ones. That one, gone, 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 gone. Oh, this is satisfying. I won't go too hard because I think they've only just reflowed. I can honestly say this part here is satisfying. Let's see if I can break that one. Come on. Yes. Yes, excellent, gotcha. So they're the ones that's causing trouble because they've got nowhere to go. So they just end up blowing to the next bit of solder. Right, so the only solder wick I have to use is here and here. But there's quite a few missing ones, but that's not bad at all. Oh, and I need to use, yeah, sorry, there's still some missing ones, but that's good. Right, okay, let's use, get the soldering line and a bit of wick. Excellent, I did that. Doesn't help when when it's not gripped in here. Fantastic. Right, I would say that is pretty successful, so I'm going to try to do those ones by hand. I suppose I might as well put more balls on at once. Right, I think I'm going to do that for the time being and then see what happens. What may happen is we might get these all joining together, in which case then I'll have to wick them off again, and then it might end up wicking off a bigger area and it might end up going completely wrong. Let's see. You're not really going to be able to see it, unfortunately. I'm going to have to hold this quite close to it. My word, I don't know whether it's reflowed or not. It just seems to... nothing seems to happen, but... I think that's gone. I just don't think it's solidified. Wow, they're in the right place. Okay, I'm now going to add a little bit of flux to everything. And I'm going to reflow it again. Well, I'm hoping that's reflowed. Well, I just want to compare it to the 41 that I took off. I've just run the soldering iron around this to get rid of some of the old solder. So let's get it in the same orientation. So we have now 2 massive gaps, 2, 2, 2, 2. So that's all good. That's there. That's there. Yay, it's the same. Right, let's look closely and see how it looks. I think that is a reballed south bridge. So let's put it onto the board. I hope it goes on well. It doesn't blow or flip or anything. So let's just double check this is the right board. Yes, with the repair up here. I think I cut through that in the last video, but I had to run a little wire from there to there. I also changed that chip over as well. So, I mean, obviously I'm changing them from boards that are already faulty. But I changed it from here. So, I mean, you know, that could be a problem. Now, let's make sure we get it in the right orientation. Right, so we've got 4 massive bits there, so they're going to be that way round, like that. Let's double check now. So we've got, I'll compare that to another board. SIE is on that chip there, so I know it's the right way round now. So let me zoom in. I'm going to try to get it in the correct, you know, just right. Right, so I can see wires here and wires here, so we know they're at the edge, and also wires here and wires here. So if we get it so we can see all the wires, it should be in the right spot. So really now, I think that should be it. Right, let's see. Right, my airflow set to 500 degrees Celsius, which is very hot again, but this board's going to drain a lot of heat. And I'm going to I'll do 60 out of a possible 200 airflow. Or should I go low? Let's go to 50. Here goes. And I've got no nozzle on it either. I don't think I'm going to wiggle this one. The balls are so close to each other. Thing is, though, I'm not going to know it's reflowed if I don't wiggle it, am I? I suppose this is where it'd be useful if you had another camera zoomed right in at an angle and you could see the balls flatten. Because I suppose when it gets to reflow temperature, the weight of the chip is going to go down a little bit and flatten the balls, so they're no longer going to be perfectly circle, they're going to be slightly more oblong. Well, I think I'm going to have to apply much more airflow than that. Let me just have a quick look. My, I think it might have reflowed. It's a bit hard to tell. Right, let's add some flux around it now. And up the temperature. Not the temperature, sorry, the airflow. So let's go to, I'm going to go to 100 out of a possible 200. Right, I think I'm going to leave it at that. We'll let it cool, then I'll clean it up with IPA and then we'll try it. My oh my. They are looking nice. There's no shorts there. And can you see they all look a little bit squished? They're not perfectly circle. Let's put it back in the case. Obviously the HDMI port's not going to work, but let's put it back in the case and see what it's doing. Right, I'm leaving that disconnected. I'm only connecting that, and I'll also do the fan. Right, here we go. Predictions. I'm going to say it's not even going to turn on at all. I think it's going to be completely dead. Right, plugging it in now. Here we go. You ready? Come on. Good. We've got a blue light. You're so annoying. Oh my god. The same. You didn't even give me a different fault. Ah, that's so irritating. Well, good news is it looks like the south bridge is the same as before. So maybe the south bridge is okay. What a shame. So I presume we're still not going to have voltage up in that corner. Let's check here, because this I should have 1.8 volts down here. So I think the work I just did now is okay, unless of course I could be putting a faulty south bridge on. Remember, all the chips I've changed here have come from a faulty donor board. So I really, you know, unfortunately I can't take this any further now. Well, let's think maybe it's back to the APU again. Was it there here? Should have 1.8. Let me just check here. Right, 5 volts there. .2 there, or 3.3. We still haven't got the 1.8. Right, so I thought it was the south bridge enabling that chip with 3.3 to give 1.8. So the south bridge is still not enabling, but maybe the south bridge isn't getting the command from something else, maybe the APU, to enable that. Ah, what a shame. Okay, I've gone back to the comments because there's more comments dropping in all the time. And Sublime167 said that something to do with this dialogue chip here. And then basically he said he checked and he's got the source voltage for this voltage regulator here coming from pins 25 and 26 from this dialogue chip here. Now, because I've got this, so remember now we haven't got 3.5 volts coming here, have we? But yet, when we probed it back, it was going underneath the south bridge chip. Remember, this could still be a south bridge problem. I've put one on from another board. I don't know if it's working or not. So if we were to go here, I've managed to find this pins 25 and 26 under the south bridge again. So 3.5 must be 3.3 is generated from here. And if I go to that side of the inductor, it's coming up here somewhere. There. Yeah. So it's coming up here. But we have got this one coming up here as well in a different spot. So we definitely know that that goes to the south bridge and this goes to the south bridge. So what I'm wondering is when we put 3.3 volts in here, we do get 1.8 volts. So the reason I'm recording this bit here is because if it blows up, I've got evidence of it blowing up. So what I've done is I've run a wire just loosely from here, 3.3 volts, over to here. So, because remember before we did put 1.8 volts into it, but what happens if 3.3 volts also needs to be enabled to do something else? So I'm going to put it back together now, because now that we're going to have 3.3 volts going in here, then I should have 1.8 volts coming out of this. But of course I don't know now, because it's not going to be in the right sequence, whether it's going to blow something up. Phil Decoder said that he is going to send me some bits over, so when they arrive, you never know, I might be able to pop something in and it might start working, you know. Maybe there's another chip or something that I've got two faulty ones off, and the coder might give me one that's going to be a good one. Right, okay, so we've got that plugged in, we've got that plugged in. Let's see what it's going to do. Let's get a fan. Here goes, plugging it in now. Nothing's gone bang yet. No, it's the same. No, it is the same. Right, let's see if we've got the 1.8 volts here now. Should have, shouldn't we? I think it was here. Yeah, there you go, 1.8 volts. Yeah. Okay. Oh, I really don't know. Right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go on diode test. So I'm going to put the red lead in here. I'm going to put this to diode, as if you're reading a diode, like that. I'm going to put the red lead in here, and I'm going to go around different points on the board. Okay, I haven't used any diode test yet. I was just using my eyes with the eye loop, looking around the place really closely, and I noticed there was liquid metal just here on the transistor. It didn't look like it was short anywhere else, but if I zoom right in, there's little specks of liquid metal everywhere. In fact, you can even see them there, of liquid metal everywhere. Can you see them all? All around here. So I'm wondering, is this still a liquid metal problem? In fact, hold on, is that liquid metal in here? There. Did you see it there on the tip? I've probably pushed it onto here now. There. There's still liquid metal around the place. And also, look at this chip on the other side. Have a look, it looks really crusty. Can you see? It looks crusty, as if kind of like liquid metal has been pushed all in here. And, I don't know, solidified a bit. Look at that. Didn't notice that before. Look at that. I mean, I don't know, maybe that's just dried flux. But when I go onto another board, onto the same chip, it doesn't look as bad as the other one, does it? You can actually see individual pins. So I'm going to get some IPA, and I'm just going to keep cleaning around the place, just in case there's still some issue with liquid metal shorting something out or causing weird resistances. Yeah, it does look a little bit grey. Right, so I'm going to spend a good half an hour now going around the board. Also, worryingly, look at this. You know the APU? Where was it now? I've seen a tiny little bit here. So you can see a little bit glistening just here. It's now gone. Here. So for all I know, there could be just a little bit that's gone underneath here. And that could be causing all the problems. Anyway, leave it with me for a while. I'm going to go over this whole board this time. Right, I've gone across the whole board now, and I reflowed some of the transistors and stuff, just in case there was liquid metal spilt underneath it. It's still got the 2-second blue light def. What's interesting though is, look, we have got 1.8 volts for a couple of seconds when it turns on, but only when we get the blue light. So you can see there we haven't got the blue light. Well, you can't, it's just off camera. Hit it again, there will be a blue light, and it goes up to 1.8. and then down again. So we do have the correct voltages for a while. So I don't think it's related to the 1.8. So I think that was a bit of a red herring. Because I've got it. Look, every single time. Yeah. So the south bridge is doing its job for for a few seconds. I think I found something, and for the first time in really since I changed the south bridge over, I am hopeful. So it looks like there's been some damage to the HDMI port, because you can see that it's been whacked back or it's been swapped over. Something's happened, because although the solder looks good from this side, underneath there's solder missing from the anchor points, and as well as that, some of the pins are not connected. And then I think what's happened is when it went somewhere to get the HDMI port changed, or maybe it was dropped or something, the liquid metal's gone everywhere. And obviously, you know, I've already changed over a MOSFET, done this, that and the other. Anyway, I found something which is different from this board here. I haven't actually tried on this board here, I'll do it live on camera. But a message came through from Mr. Molky1550, or Malky. There should be a diode on the HDMI pins. You won't get any live from the console without a HDMI signal. I only know this as I worked on one of these in my job, and whilst changing out the HDMI port, I knocked off the diode next to the pins, and after 2 hours of trying to find it, I did, refitted it, sounds like something I would do, and the same issue you were having, but after turning the diode round, the PS5 came back to life. Hope this helps you. So he put it on the wrong way round after finding it. Now, I thought, well, okay, it's worth a try, because I remember that there was a diode up here. So there's a little diode just here. And if I go to diode test on my meter, you will see that I get a reading one way and not the other. So I thought, oh, okay, well, you know, like my diode's okay, because you can see no reading that way and a reading this way. Now, I know if the port's off, it will still work as in turn on, it won't display. But maybe if the pin doesn't see the diode going through to ground, or for example going through to wherever it needs to go through to, then maybe that will cause a problem. Anyway, you can see that there's it's reading that way. But when I was trying to trace the 1.8 volt circuit here, I noticed there's another little diode here, which I'll zoom in on in a moment. And if you have a look, if I go this way, I get a reading. Okay, but look, if I go this way, I also get a reading. So the diode looks like it's shorted. Now let me go to the one underneath it, the other board. Can you see no reading that way? And a reading this way. Yeah. So maybe when the damage happened to the HDMI port, it blew that little diode. Let's try this one here. Reading that way. Black lead on the right hand side. Please no reading. Please get no reading. Oh my word. Oh my word. Oh my word, my word, my word. Now I am excited. Let's take the diode off. Let's zoom right in. I'll show you this little diode. That's what I've now put flux on. So this is the faulty diode, and it does look a bit sorry for itself, doesn't it? It does look a little bit sorry for itself. Let's take off the good one here. I've got to try and keep it in the same orientation. Because I haven't made a note of which way the line is. But I can refer to the other board anyway. So this diode is actually going to ground, isn't it? So if it was shorted, it's putting a short on one of the lines. Right, I'm just scraping here just to make sure that it has made a connection. Right, let's zoom out and see what the meter is reading. Imagine if this was the problem. Thing is though, I might not have put the south bridge on properly now, you know. Right, so we're going to go between a ground here and here. That's good news. Haven't got a reading. And now ground here and here. Oh my word, and we've got a reading. Wow. Imagine if it wasn't the 2 second blue light of death because of a tiny diode. Imagine that. I mean, it was shorting one of the pins, wasn't it? It was shorting one of the pins, and I bet one of those pins go to that HDMI encoder. I may not be able to contain my excitement if this does actually come alive. Oh, right, come on now. Please, please don't be anything but the 2-second blue light of death. You ready? Come on, come on, come on. Oh, you're so annoying. Oh, God, you know what? I've got a hammer in this room, and if it wasn't mine, I think this is the closest I've ever come to hit. Oh my God. There was a shorted diode. There was a shorted diode on the HDMI circuit. Deep breaths, Vince, deep breaths. There's more to life than fixing this PlayStation 5. So I walk away, and then a little while later, a care package arrives in the post from Decoder. Right, it has been a small eternity later. I think it might be 6 weeks or something. I've been putting it off because, if I'm honest with you, I hate BGA. I'm trying to like them. It's just that they've never given me anything. If I was to, for example, do a few of them and one came back as working, then it would give me something. But all they do is take my time without giving me anything. I've never had a successful, I don't think, BGA. Well, that is a lie. I did one on a MacBook by just applying solder to the board and solder to the chip, and it worked, but there would have only been probably like 12 balls or something on that chip. On these you have a ridiculous amount of balls, and I hate BGA because you don't know if it's fully, people say don't tap them because the problem is if you tap them you've got a chance of shorting some balls together, but then if you don't tap them you don't know whether it's reflowed or not. So yeah, it's just it's a massive headache. But anyway, Phil from Decoder has sent me through a load of PlayStation 5 stuff. So I've got this here. I have got a spare board, and he also sent me through some of the Southbridge chips as well. A couple of Southbridge chips along with other stuff. So if you have a look here, he's got his own shop called Console Fix, I think it's called. So this is a little thing at the front, the USB port and the USB-C. This is, I think, the power on lights. And look what he sent me. He sent me a Chipmunk HDMI tester. So basically, you plug this into your board and it's supposed to mimic being plugged into, for example, a TV, and the lights will mean different things. Now, isn't this just the laws of the universe? This came through however many weeks ago now, probably about 4 weeks ago, and the same week I had something sent into my PO box all the way from the Netherlands. And guess what it was? Unbelievable, isn't it? Unbelievable. In the same, I think it was within about 3 days of each other, I went from having no HDMI testers to 2 HDMI testers. But I also got sent through this as well. And this one is a USB tester. So that's going to be interesting when I'm messing around with laptops and stuff like that. And it says here, "Hi Vince, a small present for you. Love your videos. The HDMI tester is obvious. The USB tester, unlike the other testers, shows if the CPU PCH in a computer is alive. It also shows 5 volts, so will work like a glorified power on light. The idea is to always plug it into anything with a USB port when fixing. Cheers, Harold." So yeah, massive thanks Harold, and massive thanks Phil. So even if I manage to blow up one HDMI tester, I should have another one as well. Now we know on this one here that the HDMI port is actually faulty, but the thing is, even if the connections here are not connected, it should still turn on, shouldn't it? It's just a case of that it's not connected to the TV. So yeah, that's really very kind of Phil and Harold there. So if we have a look here, Phil sent me through, what have I got? I have got one of these things here. I've got a Wi-Fi one here, and I've got 2 Southbridge chips. Phil is like the master of reballing. He does a lot of it by hand. I don't know how he has the patience to do it. People say I have a lot of patience, but Phil will sit there and, in theory, he'll reball. I think he has reball. Well, he's definitely done one on the PlayStation 4. I've seen that. He will ball something like this, and he'll sit there for like over an hour moving the balls into the location. So yeah, that is dedication So let's get this known working good south bridge soldered in. So I'm going to remove the other one, but I'm not going to throw it away because it might be working. I don't know because it's come off a board that I couldn't fix. And then we'll get this known good one in, and then we'll see at long last, will this PlayStation 5 do something other than the 2-second blue light of death? So I notice here that a lot of the green solder mask is actually gone, and it's gone back to the copper. I think it's because I was scraping the probes over it earlier, and I've had the solder wick on it a couple of times now, scraping away to get it nice and flat. I don't think it's going to make a huge difference because most of it's on the ground plane anyway. So even if the balls were to go against it, those balls are going to be mostly on the ground plane, the bits that are missing. But anyway, just in case, because what could happen is it could the solder could flow down that, and it might kind of spread the ball out rather than the ball be nice and round. Solder will want to flow, and if there's solder mask there, then it's not going to flow onto that. But if there's no mask there, it's going to just keep flowing onto the copper. So I just get some green solder mask and I'm just tapping it around the place. Basically, then I have to put a UV light on it to set it. I don't know how good a job I've done, but it's better than it was before. Then we have to get this back in position. While we're doing all that, I'll shout out to My Mate Vince Massive. They are the top level Patreons. The members this month are kitdigital.com, Kip Hakes, Max Rokotansky, Chris Seal, Felipe at MrKeebs.com, DJ VG, Pixie, Anthony Dean, Bazza2, Ross Melanson, Gaspar Heller, Rickard Bergland, Soul Reaver 555, the My Mate Vince fan club over on Facebook, Tobias Hennig, Astral Red Panda, and Shamsa Al Sawadi. So massive thank you to each and every one of you. Right, that's definitely reflowed. That did a lovely jump out and jump back in again. I'm going to let it cool, put it back together, fingers crossed, it might do something. Right, so I've given that a bit of a clean. Let's have a look now, see what you look like. And they all look nice and round and a little bit flat. Right, plugging it in now. Let's see what's going to happen. So please, please, please do something interesting. Ready? Come on, come on, come on, come on. You got my hopes up. Oh, I hate you. I hate you, I hate you, I hate you. Now it's not going to turn on. And now it's going to turn on again. So I have spent so many hours on this, and it is no different than what it was earlier.
Yes, it is, Vince. The blue light's no longer working.
Well, the fact that I've done a reball on the south bridge, the fact that Phil gave me a south bridge, I think the south bridge is probably okay. How irritating. Right, well look, I know it's no capacitors, it's nothing straightforward, you know, there's no short anywhere on the board. I don't know why we haven't got that 1.8 volt rail up here. I think that's the answer. So maybe in future, well I haven't actually looked since, but I don't know whether anything's come out in the last month or so regarding this up here. But beforehand when I looked, there was no information. So I think in the future, we will know what's the matter with this one here. 3.3. But until we know why this 1.8 volt rail is missing up here, I'm certainly not going to be able to fix this. Well, it looks like the future might already be here. I searched up recently, I stopped filming this one about 3 weeks ago now. And I looked up recently, and basically there's a few videos out there now where this 2-second blue light is being fixed, and it's by using a UART adapter. So basically there's some connections in here that you get this cheap little USB reader thing. You plug it into your computer and it will give you codes. Now at this moment in time I don't know what any of the codes mean. Somebody's selling software out there for about 100 quid that decodes the codes, but I think other people are just doing it for free.
it's not going to be down to my level for quite a long time yet, but hopefully in about a year or so, once people start doing videos on how this UART is actually working and what the codes mean, it means a bit like using an onboard diagnostic tester on your car. You plug it in, and if the south bridge is working, it's going to throw out some codes, and it really is good. Different codes will mean different faults on the board, so it's starting to pinpoint different areas for you to look at. So I think for me, I was incredibly unlucky with this one here. If you think about all the faults, the damage to the board, and then I had to run a new little wire, and then we had the blown MOSFET, then we had liquid metal everywhere, and then on top of all that we had a shorted diode. I mean, there was just so much wrong with this. If it was something simple like a fuse, a shorted capacitor, I am capable of doing that, but with this one here, I'm not, but I think a professional could, because especially if they used a UART, then it might pinpoint something on the board here. Personally, I am not going to spend any more time on this. I spent 3 days on this revisit. Madness, I know. I'm sick of the sight of it, the pain this has caused me. Even if somebody said, Vince, I'll give you £2,000 to spend another 2 days on it, I would not do it. I can't physically, I'm not mentally strong enough to spend any more time on this. So apologies for the massively long video. I really tried my hardest on this one, and I think you can all agree I was a bit unlucky with this PlayStation 5 to have so much wrong with it, and on top of all that, to still not get a nice answer at the end. For example, if I prove the fault on the APU, that's the end of the video, that's fine. But for me, I hate ones like this where there's no answer at the end. I'm no wiser. I did get it at least go into the blue light, but I'm no wiser after this revisit now than I was 3 days of work previous on this. So yeah, really disappointing, but it is what it is. So a massive thanks to Gavin, and massive thanks to Phil the coder for sending me out the parts for this, and I will see you hopefully in another video very soon, and hopefully be more successful, and one day I will be able to fix a PlayStation 5 when prices come down and honest ones start getting pushed onto eBay. I will get one with a shorted capacitor, that I am sure of. Take care everyone.